After 15 years of keeping her family's diner alive, Grace's parents replaced her with the brother who skipped shifts. They handed her a transition agreement. Fewer hours, no authority, and one job: train him. Grace set down her keys and walked out. Within a day, 2 servers were gone and a supplier had refused delivery. The next morning, the landlord arrived and asked for Grace. Tyler said she wasn't in charge anymore. The landlord opened a folder. "That is not what the file says." Grace Miller grew up in a booth by the front window. That was not a metaphor. When she was little, her mother put coloring books there while lunch orders came in. By 10, Grace knew which regulars wanted extra cream. By 13, she could refill ketchup bottles without spilling a drop. By 16, she was covering the register after school. Miller's Diner was the kind of place every small town has. Red vinyl seats, coffee that never stopped brewing, a bell above the door. Old men who ordered the same breakfast for 20 years and complained if the toast looked different. To her parents, Linda and Carl, it was a family business. To Grace, it was the rhythm of her life. Her brother Tyler never hated the diner. He just hated working in it. He liked the attention. He liked telling people his family owned a local landmark. He liked walking behind the counter when customers were watching. But when the grease trap backed up, when the dishwasher quit, when a server called in sick, Tyler always had somewhere else to be. And somehow nobody called that selfish. Linda said Tyler was creative. Carl said Tyler was meant for bigger things. If Tyler disappeared during a dinner rush, they said he was networking. If Grace asked for one Saturday off, they asked why she was becoming unreliable. That was how favoritism worked in their house. Tyler's absence had an explanation. Grace's exhaustion had a tone. Grandma Evelyn saw it. She was Carl's mother, and she had helped buy the diner decades earlier. She was small, sharp, and almost impossible to fool. Every morning she sat at the end of the counter with black coffee and watched the place breathe. She watched Grace notice a cold biscuit before the customer did. She watched Grace calm down angry vendors. She watched Tyler film himself in the kitchen, then leave before the lunch rush. One morning, after Tyler forgot to order eggs for a holiday weekend, Grace drove 40 minutes to a supplier and brought back 6 cases before anyone knew there had been a problem. Carl patted Tyler on the back that afternoon and said, "Good recovery." Grace froze with the invoice still in her hand. Grandma Evelyn looked at her from the counter. She did not say anything in front of them. Not then, but later, when Grace was wiping down tables. Evelyn said, "A family can get addicted to pretending the wrong person is capable." Grace almost laughed. "Grandma, it's fine." Evelyn shook her head. "No, honey, it is familiar. That is not the same as fine." Grace carried that sentence for years, because it was the first time anyone had named what she was living inside. Not unfairness, not exactly. A performance. Everyone acting like Tyler was the future, while Grace quietly kept the present from collapsing. After Grandma Evelyn passed, the diner changed. Not the walls, not the booths, not the coffee, the attitude. Tyler started showing up with notebooks and a new haircut. He talked about branding, a social media launch, a new menu with words customers could not pronounce. He wanted Edison bulbs, white tile, and a mural on the side wall. Grace listened because she had learned to listen, but she also knew the numbers. The lunch crowd wanted meatloaf on Tuesdays. Contractors wanted coffee before 6. The high school teachers wanted the back booth on Fridays. Miller's Diner did not survive because it was trendy. It survived because it remembered people. Tyler did not understand that. He wanted applause. Grace wanted the grill to keep working. Then one Monday after closing, Linda and Carl asked Grace to sit down. Tyler was already there. He had printed mock-ups, new logo, new sign, new uniforms. Carl looked nervous. Linda looked excited. Tyler looked like he had already won. Carl said, "Your brother is going to take the lead." Grace stared at him. "Take the lead on what?" Linda smiled too brightly. The future. Tyler has a vision. We think it's time. Grace looked at the empty diner, at the chairs she had stacked, at the floor she had mopped, at the kitchen light she had replaced that morning because nobody else noticed it flickering. "What am I supposed to do?" she asked. Tyler leaned back. "Train me for a few weeks, then we'll figure out where you fit." Where you fit. The words were quiet. That made them worse. Grace had spent half her life fitting herself around everyone else's mistakes. Now the brother who did not know the safe code was telling her there might be a place for her. She asked one question. Did Grandma know about this plan? Carl's face tightened. "Don't bring my mother into this." But that was the first crack, because Grace saw it. For 1 second, Tyler looked away. The next week was humiliating in a way Grace had no language for. Tyler followed her around with a clipboard like a consultant. He asked basic questions in front of staff. Where do we keep invoices? Who handles the meat delivery? Why does Maria get every Thursday off? Maria had worked there 22 years. Her husband had dialysis on Thursdays. Tyler did not know that. Grace did. At the end of the week, Tyler called a staff meeting. He stood beside the pie case and announced that big changes were coming. He used words like efficiency, modernization, and family legacy. Then he said, "Grace has done a good job holding things down, but now it's time for leadership." Nobody clapped. That silence told Grace more than applause ever could. Grace lasted 9 more days, not because she wanted to stay, because she did not want the staff to suffer. Tyler changed the prep schedule and forgot breakfast biscuits. Grace made them before sunrise. Tyler switched coffee vendors to save money, and customers complained by 7. Grace brewed the old brand from the emergency stock. Tyler told Maria she needed to be more flexible about Thursdays. Grace pulled him into the office and told him he would not touch Maria's schedule. That was when Tyler smiled. "You see, this is why Mom and Dad think you're hard to work with." Grace did not answer, because suddenly she was tired in a place sleep could not reach. That evening, Carl handed her a printed document. A transition agreement, temporary consulting role, reduced hours, no authority over final decisions. Grace read it once, then again. Linda said, "This protects everyone." Grace looked at her mother. "Everyone?" Linda sighed. "Don't make this painful." Grace recognized the tone. It was the same soft voice Linda used when Tyler skipped work, when vendors went unpaid, and when Grace was expected to make the difficult part disappear before anyone important had to feel uncomfortable. Grace set the paper down. "I'm not signing this." Tyler laughed softly. "Then what are you going to do? Walk out?" Grace looked at him, at her parents, at the diner. Then she took the key ring from her belt and placed it on the office desk. The room went very quiet. Carl said, "Grace." She shook her head. "No. You wanted leadership. Let him lead." She walked out through the back door, not the front. She did not want a scene. She did not want pity. She just wanted air. For the first time since she was 16, Grace did not open the diner the next morning. Tyler did. At least he tried. By 9, the kitchen was behind. By noon, 2 servers had walked out. By 3, a supplier refused a delivery because Tyler had ignored 3 unpaid invoices. By closing, the drawer was short, and the dishwasher was leaking. Carl called Grace 6 times. Linda texted, "This is childish." Grace did not reply. The next morning, the landlord arrived. His name was Mr. Keller, and he had owned the building for 30 years. He did not care about branding. He cared about rent, insurance, and whether the business made sense. Tyler greeted him with a smile. Carl started talking about renovations. Linda mentioned legacy. Mr. Keller listened. Then he opened a folder and said, "I need Grace present for the renewal discussion." Tyler blinked. Grace is not in charge anymore. Mr. Keller looked at him. That is not what the file says. And that was the moment the room changed. Carl asked what that meant. Mr. Keller turned the folder around. Inside was a renewal addendum signed 5 years earlier. Grace had never seen it. Grandma Evelyn's signature was on the first line. Mr. Keller's was on the second, and on the third line, under successor operator, was Grace's full legal name. Linda whispered, "What is that?" Mr. Keller answered calmly. Evelyn negotiated this after she paid off the kitchen equipment loan. She wanted the renewal option tied to the person actually operating the diner. Tyler's face went red. "She couldn't do that." Mr. Keller looked at him. "She could, she did, and I agreed because your sister was the reason this place paid rent on time." That sentence landed like a plate breaking. Not because it was cruel, because it was plain. Mr. Keller continued, "The lease expires in 30 days. I am willing to renew it with Grace as operating manager. Without her, I am not renewing under the same terms." Carl stood up. "This is a family business." Mr. Keller nodded. Then perhaps the family should have treated the operator like family. Nobody spoke. Tyler tried to recover. He said Grace was emotional. He said she had walked out. He said she was difficult. Mr. Keller listened, then said, "Your social media plan does not pay rent. Her systems do." That was the second hit. The first was legal. The second was moral. They called Grace. This time, Carl's voice was smaller. "We need you to come in." Grace looked at the phone in her apartment. She had slept 8 hours for the first time in months. Her hands did not smell like fryer oil. The silence around her felt strange, almost frightening. "Why?" she asked. Carl hesitated. "There's an issue with the lease." Grace closed her eyes. "Of course. Not, are you okay? Not, we were wrong. Not, we hurt you. An issue with the lease." Still, she went. Not because they deserved it, because she needed to see what Grandma had done. When she arrived, Tyler was not smiling. Linda was pale. Carl looked exhausted. Mr. Keller handed Grace the file. A lease addendum dated 2 years before. Evelyn died. Rent receipts Grace had delivered when Carl forgot. Inspection follow-ups, signed by Grace. Vendor emails addressed to Grace because she was the only one who answered before lunch. And a short operating clause, typed in plain language. If Miller's Diner changes management, the landlord may require Grace Miller to remain successor operator for renewal, unless Grace Miller declines in writing. Grace read her own name twice, not because it was poetic, because it was enforceable. For once, the diner did not need anyone to describe Grace's value. The paperwork already had. Grace did not sign that day. That would have been too easy, too clean, too convenient for everyone who had spent years making her invisible. Instead, she asked for 24 hours. Tyler said there was nothing to think about. Carl said the staff needed stability. Linda said the family should stay together. Grace listened to all of them. Then she went home. For the first time in 15 years, she slept past 5 in the morning. No alarm, no prep list, no early delivery, no diner key cutting into her palm. When she woke up, her phone had 32 messages. The landlord, the cook, 2 servers, her father, her mother, and Tyler, who had finally discovered that a title could not make biscuits before sunrise. Grace returned to the diner the next afternoon, not as a daughter begging to be needed, as the person named on the lease. She placed her terms on the counter. Written authority over operations, staff protections, a salary that matched the work. Tyler removed from scheduling vendors and payroll, and a public correction that Grace had not abandoned the diner. She had been fired from the work she was already doing. Tyler called it humiliating. Grace looked at him and said, "So was being erased." No one had an answer for that. The lease was renewed with Grace as successor operator. Some family dinners became awkward. Some calls went unanswered. But the diner survived. The coffee tasted right again. The regulars came back. The staff stopped whispering. And every morning, when Grace unlocked the front door, she no longer felt like she was proving herself to people who refused to see her. She was not saving the family dream anymore. She was running the business everyone had been using her to protect.
A family business can look like tradition from the outside, but inside, it can become a stage where one child gets the credit and another child pays the cost. The lease did not make Grace powerful. It revealed she had been operating with power long before anyone gave her the title. So now I want to ask you, if you were Grace, would you keep working beside the brother who erased you? Or would you sign your name and run the diner without asking permission again?